Good evening, everybody, and you are live with the Richard Listen Show. Thank you for being here. We promise to laugh and have fun tonight. Today is a example of persistence. I think I've invited my guest at least 50 times, and she is here.
Hello, everybody. Happy Monday.
Before I introduce her, you'll find out why she's so elusive and so accomplished, and I'm truly grateful. But first, a little bit about me. That's why I get the mic. It's been an exciting couple weeks. You'll love these topics. Belden, guest soon to be introduced. Last week, I spent in Palmdale, Lancaster region of California, and for a New Yorker, if you ever find yourself out here, it is where the snow-capped mountains meet green soccer fields, and the temps go from about 30 degrees at 7 a.m. till 75 at noon, and it was an experience to be had. You learn something new about yourself, even as a coach, the body, the temperature changes. So I can't wait to hear about how you navigate all those different terrains in terms of taking care of your body, your mental health, being out there. But it was exciting. We took home third place. So there was that. We went from, I feel like the song from the whatever it is, Redwood Highlands, to the whole This Land Is My Land journey last 2 weeks. Then we headed out to Thousand Palms, caught some of the super bloom. We have flowers following up the rain. So that is what I do for my self-care. I think we're going to tie into our show today as we talk about yoga, being a student athlete, mental health, and some other concerns which many of our audience have, including autism and how to treat it. So that was all in one breath. I'm glad to be here, and today we have our esteemed guest is a yoga instructor.
Hello, Ron.
A teacher at the UCLA clinic. Correct. She will correct me many times throughout the show, hopefully. She's also been my yoga instructor in the past, a former national champion as a UCLA Bruin.
Go Bruins.
Go Bruins. And still an elite fan, as I see her out there still cheering them on when we've been to some games. So without further ado, it's a pleasure to open the discussion up to Miss Belden Marie Long.
Thank you. Thank you guys for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Yes. So talk to us about what you're doing. Now you've always been teaching yoga for the last couple of years, right? And but the work with UCLA and coming back full circle, how did that come to be?
That's I guess I just roll for 50 minutes now on that story.
Go ahead. I'll just cut you off.
Here we go.
I'll just.
So I was a student athlete at UCLA. I played soccer all 4 years, and I was recruited, and UCLA was, I chose to go there because I wanted to be surrounded around the best of the best.
And you're from the Bay Area, correct?
Yeah, I'm from Northern California, from Sonoma County, and UCLA just was like, got on campus, and I was like, this is it. This is where I want to be. And once I got there, the story of being an athlete, you're going to be a big little fish in a big pond, and that could not have been truer. And it was really humbling getting to play with such amazing athletes. I think that what my expectation was as a player was different. My role on our team was different. I actually ended up not getting as many minutes and playing time as I would have hoped for initially going in, from the beginning, but was playing under amazing soccer players. And that was kind of the first real challenge I had. I was super fortunate in high school, and my family was really healthy, and just felt very lucky.
Now, were you playing like extra teams? Did you do club teams? Like, what age did that start for you?
Yeah, so my mom used to say when I wake up in the morning, I asked her, what are we doing today? Like from the second I was up. So we were nonstop from 7 in the morning till 10 at night. And I was like, get me in every club. Didn't want to sleep. I was always preferred being busy than bored, and had a lot of energy. So did clubs since I was, like 8, travel soccer. But even doing club soccer, I still did basketball for my high school. I was on swim team, and I loved doing a bunch of different things, which I think is super important growing up as a kid. Totally. To be exposed to all these different things.
And were your family like, they were sports family? Like what created like that those were the things you were choosing?
Yeah, my family, both my parents grew up playing sports, and definitely just competitive naturally. But they were always let us pick what we wanted to do, so it was never forced. But we always, played soccer as a family growing up in the front yard. My dad coached us in basketball from when I was in 3rd grade. He would have my practice at 8 to 9, and my 2 brothers would practice before. So it was like 5 to 6, one team, 6 to 7, the next team, and 7 to 8 was my team. So we just always loved being out and about.
I'm so glad you mentioned that because our dear friend Chief Josh Iwanaka of Studio Gyms always said that his father was a soccer coach, and so it was like if you want to spend time with Dad. Yeah. That's where he was. He was at the field coaching.
It's the best. I could tell you some stories about my dad and I coaching, but it definitely shaped our relationship. And like growing up with him, those were such special times at practice. And one time, I have to go into it now.
And I got to ask you about this because I have a daughter. I've got a daughter, and I have to say, like I can't see myself being Bobby Knight. With my daughter. Yeah. So I got to hear if there's does that happen? Like was your dad like a forceful coach? Was he a warm coach? Does that exist in
tough love? Yeah. Tough. I think I got cheated minutes. I used to sit there on the bench and I would count how many minutes I had. And if I made a basket in basketball, he would say, "Oh, every blind squirrel finds a nut." And I was like, it was a good shot. But he was so hard on me playing, but it also, when I did do well, it was just a silent, good job, and I knew it. And I think that work ethic was taught from him, and it was never, it's such a special relationship when you want to play well for someone, and when you, those times practicing and getting to debrief the game after was the best. I would be like, "Oh, that was a bad sub," or one time we lost and he played everyone equal minutes. He was very fair. And I go, "You know what, Dad, next season," I was in 6th grade. I was like, "I'm playing for the winning team. I want to switch teams. I don't want to play for you anymore." He said, "Get out of the car." And he said, "Walk home." And I got out of the car, and he was going to have me walk home. But then, 5 seconds later, he drove around the block, sped up, and then said, "Get back in the car." And I jumped back in the car, and then, but it was just special. It's really a cool opportunity.
He was really big on fairness, huh?
Yeah, fairness. And you just work hard. And more importantly than shooting the basket or being the best player was how good of a teammate you can be. And I think that carried on into my role at UCLA, where I wasn't getting a lot of playing time, which is, you think this is your job. It directly correlates to how well you're playing, how many minutes you have. And when we won the national championship, it was the first time for UCLA.
What year was that for you?
2013. It was my sophomore year. Yeah, it was my sophomore year. And I think I played in 2 games that whole season. And that's, wow. You're talking from someone I'm competitive. I want to win and I want to be the best. And that's why I was going there. And I remember someone saying, no one's going to ask you, how many minutes did you play in the national championship game? Now I brought it up, so I'm going to tell it. But it was how do you be a good teammate while also wanting to never settling with yourself. So it was never okay to be sitting on the bench. I always wanted to be better, but how do you support those in this team sport?
Now, did you do a circuit of colleges, because you were recruited? UCLA top school in the nation. You played in the development academy, right? Olympic Development Academy. That's a real merit, and congratulations.
Thank you.
So did you do a circuit, or was if I get a culture like that, a winning culture, I'm good?
Yeah, I think it was. I definitely looked at a bunch of different schools. I was in my Final Four schools were Long Beach, Harvard, Santa Clara, and UCLA. And I remember the UCLA coach was like, "Those couldn't be any different. Those are 4 completely different schools," which is actually something I'm proud of in myself. Just I felt like I could fit in with all of those different environments, totally. Which was something I was proud about. But it was hard. I wasn't going to miss the opportunity to really, really push myself, because I think that's how you get better, is being around the best of the best academically, socially, athletically, and that's what I found at UCLA. So it was an awesome experience.
So now, but you still, at the same point, you're 17 or 18, and like you know, like you said, you still got that inner like, I want to play,
right?
So I mean, were there moments where it was tougher, where it became more challenging, and if so, like how did you resource that? Like, who did you go to? Or
right, so it was not easy. Like, I remember I used to count down how many games we had left in season, because it was that hard to sit and watch. Like, it's no athlete wants to not, I mean, everyone wants to be on the field. And I think even more than that, I was learning a lot about myself. And at UCLA, we're really lucky. I got connected with this group. It's called Student Athlete Mentors. Short is SAMS. And what SAMS is it's a liaison between the counseling services at UCLA and the student athletes. And initially, when I was there freshman year, someone older was like, Belden, you should join this club. And again, loving to be doing a bunch of things, I was eager. And so I went to the meeting. And then by junior year, I was president of the club. And through Student Athlete Mentors, I learned a lot about myself, and then also that I wasn't the only one who was feeling this way, and that athletes in college, they go through a lot. Like, I think there's a glorified idea of like, you're a student athlete and your classes are easy, and oh, you get priority enrollment, or oh, you're just traveling and playing a sport. But I mean, when you're 18 and you're away from home, and your scholarships potentially directly correlated to your performance, and it's it just changes.
It's a confusing message, right?
Yeah,
be a good teammate,
really,
but if you don't do something good,
right,
you could.
There's a lot of factors that go into it,
right.
And I think that especially when you come from having success, and sport being just this fun place where you got to go, and then wait a second, like this is not what it used to be for me. It's really important to have a support group and to learn about how are you going to cope, and how does your identity change. And that's really where I got interested in mental health. And I believe my experience at UCLA was what it exactly what it needed to be, and I'm so thankful for it now looking back. So I guess it all comes full circle, but it's definitely was not easy. And being a student athlete is hard. It's it's a really challenging thing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm like trying to figure, like, how did you draw motivation to keep showing up to practice? It's like, where do you keep getting that from? And did you find it then from participation in other things, where it was like, now you're getting this kind of, it was like a mentorship role. I mean, you were getting support, but you were also then connecting athletes. Like, what was the role of SAMS?
Yeah, so SAMS, we did trainings on various topics, bystander awareness. We did trainings on body image. It was different players and representatives from each team, and we would come together and we'd sit and we'd just be like, hey, what's going on with your team? What do you notice about your team? What are these topics that athletes have that maybe we're not addressing? And then we would seek out trainings, and they would give us resources, and then we would go back to our teams and be like, hey, this is it. And a couple things that I'm really proud of that we did when I was there was we did as an athlete, you do a bod pod. So you do your weight and how much muscle you have, and if you're giving out these numbers and people don't know exactly what they mean, you can take it in like, oh, I don't know, is this right? You're comparing. So now they actually do education before you do a bod pod, and then which is huge. Body fat analysis, and just knowing that information before can influence how you take those numbers, and then how you go back and your team talks about it. We worked a lot on team culture, how to approach your coaches with concerns. Because again, they're your biggest supporter, but they're also, their job. It's their job. And how do you have those conversations with them? And I believe in all those topics that we went over are what has been most influential in how I navigate around the world.
So what you brought into the team and the team environment at one of the most advanced institutes now has shaped the direction of your career.
Yes, completely.
Yeah, I mean, because I'm curious. I mean, I know I don't want to like out UCLA. I had a call a week or two ago about University of Alabama football, and they were creating this top down plan of how they're going to address and screen for depression and things like that.
Yeah.
And I just had a tough time being like really, like I mean, it just seems like such a performance based culture. How are they going to make this transition?
Yeah. It's crazy.
And I believe they probably want to, but it seems like it's a really difficult role. So how did you overcome? Like, did you feel any of that stigma? Did you feel any resistance? Did you feel your coaches were open? Like, how did you deal with your own fear? Like, oh, are they going to see me as like somebody who's going to tell what they're really going through? Or is the trust going to be, like, how did you cope with all that?
I'm really happy you asked that. And I'm really excited for what's moving forwards with athletics and mental health, because I think there are a lot of people that are making a huge effort to address these issues and bring awareness to it. Mm-hmm. I'm going to tie it in with a story.
Sure.
But one of my good friends is playing for the national team right now. And I thought she said it best. She said a former player told her that in order to be successful on the national team for a really long period of time, like there are tons of really, really talented soccer players, but the ones that are going to be the most successful are those that can breathe under pressure. So it's like, how do you, with everything going on, still find this joy in what you're doing? And how can you be like gentle to yourself and kind? And the world is already so hard, and sport is already the
yoga teacher
so hard.
Out.
It's so hard. I know it's coming out,
but
it's so hard. It's so hard. Life is so hard that it's like you have to be your biggest fan. So, and I think that that's something that I wasn't at UCLA. And I mean, I felt like I lost my confidence playing, and confidence is something that no one can take from you. Like, it's something that's just yours. Like, you have your confidence and I have my confidence, and no one can detract or add to that. It's just something that is. And I feel like finding that awareness and like slowing down, I believe, gives you the opportunity to do that. So with that, I mean, I saw I ended up actually working closely with one of the counseling psychologists and seeing her and just learning like emotions are tools, and they kind of just direct you to what's important. So because I was having these feelings about soccer, like, and that I wanted to play, she was like, it's important to you. And instead of, this culture where it's like athletes are strong and we're powerful and you're always happy and like you're a good teammate and yada, 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 it was okay to be sad. And it was okay to be like, I don't like this, and I don't like how this is going, and I'm mad about it, and letting that kind of pass. And then moving forward, and then being like, also like, I'm here and I'm awesome, and just like navigating those emotions. And I feel like conversations opened up through that. And I feel like more and more coaches are open to having those conversations. And I mean, just the last week, I had the opportunity to go back and teach at UCLA. I got to teach.
Right.
Yeah, it was like full. I was back there teaching student athlete mentors, put on an event where they had 2 yoga sessions from 6 to 7 and 7 to 8, and they opened it up to any student athletes that wanted to come. And I think there was over 45 people that ended up coming, and I was like, it's so cool that this is here, because it didn't exist, and that was only I graduated 4 years ago, and now this is already happening, and it's really, really cool to see. And I think it just takes someone to be like, hey, you're doing awesome, and you can take a breath and like, let's sigh. I think it's the coolest.
Yeah, I almost don't want to cut you off. It's just like I just want to absorb all that, all that awesomeness.
And it's easier said than done, again, because I have to tell myself this every day, because I'm not doing it. It's so much easier practice than
No, I don't want to minimize all what you're saying. I talk a lot about, with the guests about Lewis Howes and the mask of masculinity, and it's like all those things you're saying are so ingrained, right? And it's harder to learn these principles of like, be a team player and support your teammates. And so I hope we're moving in that direction. But the importance of what you're talking about being able to like identify how frustrated you are without shutting down. With it being able to be like, I'm frustrated, I'm disappointed, but I'm great. And finding ways to create value and create impact, and for you to see it like full circle and to be able to give back to that community so quickly. I mean, it just seems so like it's like become your passion, and like it was happening when you were feeling like frustrated on the bench, sitting out those games. And it's a great reminder for me. You know, it's like when you just start putting like, you know, how many listeners are we getting? How many sponsors are we having? You know, we start looking at these markers that's about becoming a successful anything. Yeah. And then you get away from, why are you doing what you're doing? Yeah. You know, what is this teaching you? Like there has to be a process.
Right. Totally.
You know? And
Kobe Bryant has a good talk on the process.
Who does?
Kobe Bryant.
Oh,
We're
really?
talking about his process, yeah. For later.
We'll reference it. We'll reference it.
No, but I just want to say on a personal note, I mean, you know, I met Belden. She was teaching a yoga class for athletes, and during that time was a sudden I lost one of my childhood friends, and I kind of walked in like completely just like, you know, you're grinding away, you're doing 2 days, even as an athlete, like trying to get stronger and more fit, and then something happens. It's just like, even as a psychologist with all the tools, things knock you way off kilter. And grief and loss is it's not easy to cope with, and so being able to find a place where you could, you know, talk about the difference between disassociation, like getting completely out of your head and lost, and association, which is like getting into your body and learning some yoga. So I'm really grateful for that, and I hope that I mean, nowadays it's becoming a lot more, especially in Los Angeles, commonplace that everyone's got some degree of yoga practice or awareness. But what led you in that direction? Were you always like doing the component of being an athlete that was like stretchy and?
Absolutely not. No.
I took my first yoga class and I was like, what is this? I was like, this is too slow. I was like, you're either old and doing yoga or you're doing inversions, like on your head and doing handstands. And I was not going to, I wasn't old and I wasn't going to do inversions.
I think the key word I got from that was just awareness. And I actually started doing yoga because I was injured my junior year of college. I had an injury and I was like, what am I going to do to stay in shape? And I was like, okay, yoga, here we go.
So I looked at it as just this like another physical workout. It was also working out was something that I was doing to cope with other things. And it was just like, okay, here I'm going to just physically exhaust my body. And it was just purely sweat, high plank, whatever. And then I went to my first yoga class and the instructor goes, if you want to just lay in Shavasana, like that is yoga. And for those of you that don't practice Shavasana, it's the end pose. It's corpse pose, and it's actually one of the most difficult poses, but you lay there. And it was the first time I had been told that I could be gentle with my body. And I didn't need to push, and I didn't need to do everything that I was told. As an athlete, you push through injuries, and again, that stigma of like, twist your ankle and take it up, and we're back on the field, and that's what's glorified is pushing through injuries, going 150%. There's no moderation, it's 150 or zero. Most athletes go 150, and so yoga was this space that I started to see as somewhere where I was going to listen to
what I was feeling.
You get injured, and sometimes your value, like most people's confidence, if it's not mirrored in the environment, like, well, now I'm no longer effective. Yeah. I'm no longer valuable. So the fact that it creates a space of whatever you can do, whatever you're able to do, whatever you can find.
John Wooden, here's a quote. I think it's in
the Wooden Center. It's like, don't let what you can't do interfere with what you can do. And I think, boom. Well said.
John will quote him all the time, but
it was really the space where it was like, check in with yourself, and it starts completely as an athlete physical with all these really anatomical cues of like roll your elbows back, and the more and more physically connected I got with my body, the more it became internal, where it was like, okay, now how do I feel like emotionally and energetically and mentally? And I think that was where I started to notice, like, what are my intentions and why am I doing what am I doing? And taking the practice of yoga, which yoga doesn't start or stop on your mat, it's everywhere, and really applying that. And that's now what I do at the hospital with kids is that's what I look at is why we do what we do. And everything has an intention. And
But how did you transform from your own practice, which gave you a sense of peace, to teaching it? Like, was it just a natural extension? Yeah.
I love to talk. So it was like, okay, no, I wanted to know more.
I can't be quiet.
I can't be quiet.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I know actually in all my jobs I'm like teaching and giving very at the kids at the hospital it's very simple language, do this, arms up, very simple, and then in yoga, leg up, inhale, downward dog, exhale, all these things, and it's a lot of demands, but I just want to share more than anything and connect. And I feel like yoga was a platform to do that.
So what led you to the population of autism? Because my first experience when I came to Los Angeles, I got like a behavioral aid job in grad school, and it was so different than like working with kids or people bouncing balls and smiles, and all of a sudden you're helping someone who maybe cannot make eye contact or cannot verbally engage you. Yeah. I think I quit the first job after like 2 weeks. It was like, because it brings up so many feelings of helplessness. At least for me it did. Yeah. I'm always like, I see people stick with that work or keep investing and giving the patience to the families. It's really amazing. And it's pure behavioral psychology. Yeah. So how did that open up, and what led you towards that population?
I started interning for a clinic at UCLA. It's an early intervention clinic, and it's a partial hospitalization treatment center. And I interned there my senior year, knowing nothing about autism, knowing nothing about really autism, anything with that, and with kids and development, child development. I had no idea. But I came to UCLA thinking I was going to be a doctor. And I should have known chemistry freshman year, but I wanted to raise my hand, and I don't see the body and think cells. I was like, that was my first thing. It's like, I don't get it. We're not. That was confusing to me. So, but then I see, no cells, and I didn't understand it. And I took a psych class my sophomore year just as a GE. And I was like, I get it. Like
behavioral therapy, like why we do what we do. I could start to see that, and that's more how my brain works. And then with kids with autism,
at least at the clinic I work at, we do ABA therapy, so applied behavioral analysis. So we're looking at the function of behaviors and promoting positive behaviors, and then hoping to decrease more negative behaviors. So you're looking at like what is happening in the kid's environment, what's the antecedent, and then what's the behavior,
and then what's the function, and then you're looking in how do we redirect it so it's more positive. And I loved it.
I loved the energy, and I was like, I felt it, like I loved the kids. And then, but when you say you quit, I thought I wasn't gonna make it. I thought I wasn't gonna make it. It's exhausting, and it was really, really challenging in my first 2 years working there. And I think it was because I was putting expectations on myself and the kids with where they needed to be. So, you're teaching a kid, a 3-year-old, colors. And blue, it's blue. And like, let's learn like blue, and then, but it's maybe not resonating.
Or they're not getting it. And then I'd go home and I'd be like,
what did I do wrong? First of all, I was thinking about myself. And then why aren't they knowing that? And that takes a toll. I think when you're just day in and day out, and it's just like, we're working with some of the kids I work with are globally impacted, so there's a lot of other things going on as well. And then you see the parents, and it's a lot to take in. And I think without having yoga, I wouldn't have had a shift of my perspective, and also a couple other people really influenced me as well, other people that are more experienced and still with the fields that have been doing it for 20, 30 years.
So you started to develop your own process.
My own process.
Some of it's similar to being an athlete, like, okay, I'm stressed, I need to go do something to take care of myself.
Right.
And then the similar theme of I need support and mentorship.
Yeah.
When I don't know what to do.
Right. Totally. And then looking at like what was my intention
for my interactions with these kids, and if my intention, yes, I'd like them to know their colors, but also this expectation that I was putting on them wasn't fair, and it was how do I celebrate where they are today and meet them with this is you and this is who you are, and that's so awesome, and this is where I am and this is me, and celebrating that, and then we'll know our colors at some point, but it might not be today, and that's okay. And I think that shift of like, celebrating you for you, and my intention being to connect, and how do I do that, was what puts me in a place where like there are moments throughout the day and I'm like, I love my job, and that outweighs the moments where I'm like, you don't know your colors, or so, because it's not important. And I think that connecting is at the end of the day what my intention is with the work I do.
So do they provide like in group supervision or someplace to be like a padded room for
I don't know. It's lunch break.
It's 30 minutes and everyone is silent. Everyone's
exhausted because when you're on, you're on. So I think it's just like, okay, you decompress.
Yeah. Do you feel the same way when like someone you like tree pose and they're like
I
falling over?
Put your leg on. Put your foot on your cat. No, yeah, it's just.
I don't know. It's just I've learned a lot of patience.
And I never would have thought I was a patient person. Never would have thought I was patient. And I think that, I've said this before, I think my job is making me a better person that I'm giving to it, which is powerful. And I think that's exciting to say that you're working with a demographic and a population of people that are teaching you more about yourself than. It's energetically exhausting, but
yes.
I'm so lucky.
There's that theme again, right? Like resilience comes from giving everything you have, and then knowing you need support and care, but then also knowing there's learning being done.
Right.
Like that's right. I think that's kind of the mistake I make. You look at the NBA player or the Division I basketball player on Duke. You're like, oh well, he just has to just keep doing what he's doing. Like, but he's going to discover a new type of adversity. At some point Zion's going to meet his challenge,
it's true.
right? And we can't predict what that process is. We don't see it. We think we do. But autism is a growing field. What directions do you see, especially coming out of UCLA? What kind of work do you see the future for that treatment?
Yes, it's.
Is yoga actually being used?
So it's interesting. I've actually had the opportunity to teach a lot of families and kids with autism yoga, and I love it. It's combining my two passions, and that's essentially where I see my vision going, is combining my two loves. And I don't think there's that much of a difference, to be honest, because I think at the end of the day, it's really important to have neurodiversity. Like, it's really, really important. And it's not necessarily like, I'm trying to. At first, I was like, oh my gosh, we're trying to create little robots here. Like, why is it important that I change your behavior? But it's more of like, how can I connect to you, and how can we meet somewhere in the middle? And I feel like that's with yoga, you slow down and you kind of recognize like that awareness. Again, which you touched on, the awareness. Like, first, it's like awareness, like I'm here. Again, early intervention is super important. So we have kids at the hospital that are as young as 2 years old. So I think that's super important, with just, knowing what the signs are for autism. And then your brain is a sponge when you're that young, that you can really teach, because once you're, you maybe 7 or 8, it's more of a learned behavior. So you've been reinforced with like, when this happens, and if no one knows that you may potentially have autism, then it becomes like it's this habit, and so it's harder, I would say.
Negative attention seeking.
Negative attention, tantrums, I do this.
I get this, and then you keep getting it over and over again, versus when you're 2 or 3, you can teach, just use your words, tell me. Or, I need a break, or this is, all these different tools.
Which, I don't know if I mentioned on here before, the great book. The author is Shefali Tsaberi. She's a child psychologist from New York.
Okay.
And she writes, it's called The Awakened Family. She's got a few. And part of her writing is about, like, it's written for parents, but for anyone who works with any kind of attachment or trauma, right? That so often, as the therapist, coach, counselor, parent, it's like, we want to fix it. We can't tolerate the distress. We think there's something wrong when we see distress. And so with all the right intentions, we want to take it away. And we don't step back and do this kind of questioning of, well, what are they trying to communicate? And what are they trying to communicate to me? And being able to sit in that. And it may be uncomfortable initially to really find out what the authentic voice, and that may be a really I don't know if you've seen some of these now extreme sports, these free solo or
crazy
or the Dawn Wall. If
Yeah.
you've seen it, these both these gentlemen featured in those films are like were on the spectrum. It's I believe and they just went out and found rocks and climbing and like fell and fell and fell and like did not interpret it maybe in what a regulated nervous system would determine is okay, I failed, I should stop. Right. They found a different kind of reinforcement from playing in nature or through their relationship to the
It's
rock.
fascinating.
It is.
It's fascinating.
And I think it's so cool though. It's so. Free solo was amazing. That was amazing.
I was in the fetal position the whole time.
I knew he was alive afterwards, and I was like, this is.
That Sunday morning, I was having coffee, watching that, and I was like, this is not relaxing at all. I was on edge. But I think again, it's like celebrating those people for their talents and where they are in the world and how they see the world, and again finding that middle ground of like where can we connect, and again slowing down enough. And I agree with what you're saying with it's maybe uncomfortable to build that awareness, but I mean for the kids' first 2 weeks, we really observe and just look at what are the behaviors and why are you doing what you're doing, and then from there make an action plan that's best for that child. They say if you know one person with autism, you know one person with autism, and I couldn't believe that more, just because it's so different for every person. And I think that's why
you know one person with autism.
You know one person with autism. Yeah, because and that's why I love my job, because every single day it's something new, and that's special when you can really look and be like, this is ever changing, and
So are the numbers increasing, or is it just was there just such a lack of awareness in the past?
I was looking at numbers before I got on
really?
this. I was like, what are the numbers?
Last I heard, I'm not going to quote me on this, but I think it was like 1 in 64 kids are somewhere on the spectrum. And again, I think that's very broad and could look different based on function. But yeah, and I think it's growing. I think that there definitely needs to be more awareness and then more resources for these families, and more education.
Yeah, that's the hardest part. I mean, you could imagine, right, when you have an expectation of what your interaction is supposed to be as a family, and people are grieving, and if you feel like you said without support, or that you can't speak to other families about similar behaviors, that can be really alienating. So I'm amazed, in LA they have large the help group has multiple schools. The Advanced LA conference, is that coming up soon? Is that at UCLA? Do you know?
Oh, I don't think so. I don't know. I haven't heard that.
So I get all my CEU invites in the mail. Yeah, but it seems like, the amount of training for professionals is increasing, and opportunities to help. So, but switching back to your other hat as a soccer player.
Yeah.
So just curious, in the wake of the female athletes pushing for pay.
I love it.
How is that going?
I love it.
How is that going?
Go.
Oh gosh. Okay. I don't know. I feel so passionate about female athletes. I have a lot of friends that are playing professionally right now, and soccer. Everyone watch the women's soccer. It's important, but and they'll come back in the off season, and we'll talk about their teams. And
So there's a national soccer league just like the MLS.
Yes, there is.
How many teams are there?
Oh, I don't know how many.
Okay.
See, I should know those things, but I don't. But I also couldn't tell you anything about news, or I stick to my little
yoga world. But I asked my friends. It's very hard, but you play a season, you're getting not paid as much as you should, which you know about the numbers and then recent case with the national team. And I'm like, why are they playing? Why are they? Because it's not glorious. The teams are in Kansas and New Jersey. They're in these random places. And then I caught myself when I was like, if they don't go and play professionally, what is that like? Who is going to do that? They're the best at their sport. Who is going to inspire youth female athletes to continue and to dream of playing a sport and set that standard and that you can do that. If they don't do it.
Yeah, that's kind of where
That's
I was
what's
going.
important.
I mean, not to switch off
No,
that
switch.
gear of making money for the professional women's team, and I hope that legislation is going forward for them. But how do you see? Because other countries, they don't have the college system, right? Right. So what do you think about the system we have here for athletics, and in terms of how that ties into the development of a national team?
I think
It's interesting. I think it's different based on every sport. I think college, I still see college as like an awesome opportunity to do both athletics and academics. Fortunately, when I was playing, there were a lot of girls that were going to go on to play professionally, but I don't think that happens as much across the board for other sports. I feel like in college there still is like a camaraderie, or there should at least be this sense of like, in high school, when you go to a high school football game on a Friday night, there's still this like joy to the sport of athletes playing. And I hope that college doesn't lose that. And I don't know if I'm to say it is losing that with everything that's going on, but I think that at the heart of it, like, you're still playing for a team. And I think once you leave college, it does become a career. And I think once something is like making you money and is your livelihood, that changes. And hopefully in college it still is this team. There's this team sense of like, we're going to win a national championship, or, we're going to practice and we're all doing this together. And like the people that I played with are friends and will be a part of my life for the rest of my life. And that's invaluable to have those relationships.
But what you said
Towards a common goal.
initially about coming together, and about the women who are playing professionally doing it because it's furthering the sport.
Yes.
Right? Like, that mission is not something maybe that like a guy who plays in the G League of NBA or the MLS, like that, I don't know if that's their agenda. Maybe it is, and they're that inspired, but a lot of times it's, I want to get paid to do what I'm best at. So that's a really unique difference between the women's game and the men's game. Do you feel at all that it dilutes from the national feeder system, like how we compare to other countries? Or for the women, we're always the best anyway, right?
Yeah, no,
So,
I don't
think. I mean, I don't think so. I think female. I think the girls that are continuing on to play, at least the ones that I know, are really doing it for the right reasons, and they still love the sport. Like, they're playing because they love the sport, and they want to inspire future generations of female athletes that can play. So I think that's really, really exciting.
Yeah.
And I mean, the national soccer team, they're amazing. They World Cup this summer. We should see more posters.
Yeah.
Yes, I think so.
It's so hard. It's like I romanticize like playing on like whatever level, like, professionally, but like you hear these stories of like staying in like Eastern Russian bloc.
Yeah.
At least for basketball players. I don't know if soccer goes that far.
Soccer's
like,
a lot of girls go to
Play internationally.
and it's not always comfortable, and you're not always with like many people that you would like enjoy hanging out with.
Right. No, you definitely don't pick your teammates.
You don't pick your teammates or those people. You're just sports. That's one thing. I think it definitely puts you in an uncomfortable place, and all of a sudden you're roommates, and you don't know who your roommate is, but you're going to sleep together, and you're going to perform together. You go 0 to 100 real fast.
Wow. My college roommate was from Latta, South Carolina. 2 stoplights. We managed.
Yeah.
Yeah. He kept calling me Yankee.
Work.
Yeah, it was the whole time like we just were trying to figure out how to like talk to each other. So I'm supposed to, our esteemed co-host tonight, which I hope you will meet at a future occasion, Caitlin Patricia Weiler, was not here today. She is exhausted. She, our post will be sharing about it. She walked the LA Marathon with a gentleman who's a quadriplegic.
That's awesome.
And he used something, I believe it's called an exoskeleton. Wow. So he had the arms like 2 walkers, and then he had like a suit. But how long did it take him? 24 hours, I believe. No, 2 days. 2 days.
That's
2 days
awesome.
they walked. Yeah. So I just want to give a shout out to Caitlin and her disability awareness and all that people are doing out there, whether it be at UCLA, at the clinic to raise awareness and support people in whatever way to show the amazing things. It's like when you turn the ordinary into something extraordinary. I mean, that's beauty.
The world's special.
It is.
It is.
And I love
really
even when I get to see, my co-hosts and people like all, you may be an actor, you may be doing auditions and things like that, but something like that I think is really, moving the needle forward. And I hope that's what we're doing here on the show. I hope that that's what the Richard Listen Show is featuring here, is like the things you're talking about, bringing that safety, into both connecting to your own body and also within the team dynamic and coaching dynamic. Because for coaches to feel like they want to address these things and that athletes are willing and open to be leaders within that culture, and to create that, that's, I think, the hard thing is how do we create this bridge?
Right.
Is it okay for us to address this in this environment? How do I break through stigma when people don't even realize that they're hiding behind stigma? So
yeah, I feel like I have to one thing. I hope we have time.
Yeah.
I remember walking around campus and people, athletes would be sweaty in their uniforms, dripping, and we'd be running from class to class, because you practice 8 to 12, video, film, whatever, you're stretching, treatment.
I
then
knew
you're going
I was
to
allowed
practice.
to call myself an athlete. I ran around campus.
Anyone with a backpack that's sweating, and anyone that's doing hard work.
You're an athlete.
Yeah, but you'd be like, oh, how are you? And everyone just says good, I'm fine, it's good. And I think and you'd already be passing somebody, and it's wait a second, just asking someone how are you? Really holding space for somebody to how are you? Yes. And that's what I feel like at the end of the day, it's just holding space for people to check in, whether that's on a yoga mat, taking a couple deep breaths, laying down.
You do that 5 minutes before class or 5 minutes after.
Yeah.
There's a line to talk to you. I'm like, oh, is she gonna bolt out of here?
No, but because people need it. People want to be heard and want to check in. And I think coaches, how are you? And actually listening. How many times do people ask that without just responding automatically? Good, fine, yes, good. Oh, have a good day. And there's no bad intention in that. It's just a social normal thing. But
no, it's so important. One of the teams I'm working with, it's 12 and 11-year-olds, and yet knowing what's going on in different households, knowing who's ill, knowing who's struggling with what, that's why I need multiple coaches present, because it's a lot to hold. I'm surveying, I'm seeing the field.
We got Richard out here on
it's a helicopter, looking above, and you're and you may need to go give attention over here. So my favorite thing from the last tournament, we got just a few minutes before we tell people how to find you and stay connected with you. But one of the players had played half the game and he was going to sit out. He was struggling with his stamina, and he was laying underneath a chair, and I went over specifically and I was like, what's going on? And the mom was like, 2 quarters, gave me the 2 quarters face. But she's been through it before, and it's a sports aware parent. And I said, well, you know what? The team needs you up and ready. At any minute, there could be an injury. And, we need you ready to go in. We need you to be, and the team needs to feel you're up and supporting them. Sure enough, within 2 minutes, a player got injured. And I swear it was a scene from a movie. This guy, how tired he was, came bursting out of a pack. And they wound up having an amazing fourth quarter and winning 6-2. So it's
Very cool.
but seeing that individual journey,
yes,
over shutting down, and to hear on the way home, it was best day of his life. It's that's the kind of moments.
That's his process.
Yeah, that's his process. So we've got a few minutes left. I could sit here with you all day. We hope you will come back. Let everyone know how to reach you, how to connect with you, and any closing thoughts you have.
Yeah, so Belden again, and way to connect for me through Instagram, b.long5. And then I guess I always end my yoga classes, and I think that this most holds true for me right now, but enjoy just being, and that's all. Just enjoy just being. And thank you guys so much for having me here. Richard, I think what you're doing is amazing. I was so happy that we were able to connect. 50 minutes flies. I was a little nervous. I was like, I don't know if I'm going to make it. But thank you guys for listening, and I look forward to connecting with you guys at home or in any way possible.
Yeah, and thank you for being here. And thank you for being authentic. I mean, I can't tell you, like, you've been this, whether it be before a yoga class, and you will listen when you ask. And when I've seen you at the UCLA women's soccer events, like, you're equally excited to listen, to hear about a player's journey, coach's journey, and you convey that. And that's a real gift. So my mental thought to leave everyone with today is simplify. Yes, that as we're out here, we're trying to accomplish so much. I want the show, I want all my clients to be healing and healthy. I want my book to be done. But you know what? I got to live one day at a time. I need to get out. I need to smell the flowers, the wildflowers, the orange bloom, whatever it may be. And like Belden was saying, check in with the body, get a stretch, heal, slow down, and connect to those who's important, and have a little bit of fun. It's meant to be fun. It's meant to be enjoyable. It's meant to be connected. Like, there's, the world is moving fast enough and enough chaos out there. So thank you for being a part of my playground. Thank you, Belden, for being here. You can find me, as always, Facebook/Richard Listens, Instagram. We're up over 11.5K. Thank you so much. At Richard Listens, Twitter, Richard Listens. What am I missing? I think you get the theme. iTunes and Spotify, all access broadcasting. Please download some old episodes. Hopefully we're representing all the different athletes and interest groups out there. But if not, let me know. We've had equestrian, we've had violinist, now we've had yoga enthused soccer players. We will cover it. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And we're out. We'll see you in 2 weeks, everybody. Take care.